So, aloha and welcome to iTeach808, Empowering Hawaii's Teachers and Technology Conference, sponsored by the Augustine Educational Foundation and Sacred Hearts Academy Honolulu. My name is David Ninomiya, and I'll be facilitating this session. We're so honored to have Katie Gardner join us today and share her expertise through a 45-minute presentation named Literacy and Language Learning with WriteReader. Please be aware that we'll be recording this session. If you don't like being recorded, you may consider turning off your camera during the session or reviewing the recording afterwards. The recording will be made available on YouTube and shared on iTeach808's website a week after this event. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Katie Gardner.
All right, thank you very much. And I'm really excited and happy to be here. Let me go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started. All right, so hopefully that looks okay, and please just let me know or our host in the chat if you are having trouble viewing anything or hearing me. So I'm really excited to be here today to talk about literacy and language learning with WriteReader. A little bit of background about WriteReader before we get started. So WriteReader is a free multimedia, web-based, which means no apps or downloading needed, literacy platform that enables our students to create, share, and publish books to improve their literacy and language skills. Students are engaged and self-motivated to write, take risks in their writing, and revise their work. They see themselves as authors and are eager to share, publish, and celebrate their digital or hard copies of their books. This program really knows no boundaries when it comes to digital devices. Our students can learn and access using their web-based programs on laptops, iPads, tablets, desktops, or smartphones. There's no need to download apps, and it's compatible with any device. And once again, please feel free in the chat to share your thoughts, questions, or comments, and hopefully at the end, we can kind of go through and address any of them. And here at the bottom of the screen is the website for WriteReader, if you'd like to take a look at it later on. And just a quick background about myself. So I'm Katie Gardner. I teach at Knollwood Elementary School in Salisbury, North Carolina. So a bit far away, but we are at my school. We are a one-to-one school, meaning that all of my students have an iPad to use in the classroom and take home with them to use outside of the class. We are a large Title I, which means high poverty school, with about 60% of our students being non-native English speakers. I personally am an early elementary English as a second language teacher at my school, meaning that I work with kindergarten and first grade ESL students. As we know, these past few years have been very different for us. So my students and I have been learning both face-to-face, remotely, and in virtual learning settings. So I'll talk about how WriteReader has kind of assisted and supported my teaching and my students in language and literacy learning within the different learning environments. So just very quickly, when we plan our language and literacy learning tasks as educators for our students, we know that it's really important to create kind of a multimodal learning experience. As we can see here, just very quickly, this multimodal literacy experience is when we have texts that use a combination of two or more of the following communication modes, where all the modes assist in meaning making. So we have spoken and written language, images, sounds, bodies of movement, and talking about our environmental and spatial surroundings. I believe this is important because when creating meaning making for our students, they will become engaged and excited and develop a purpose and motivation in completing our tasks. As well, we can see that it pretty much encompasses all of our language domains: reading, writing, speaking, and listening, as well as our visual literacy. So let's also take note that the definition of literacy has evolved according to the National Council of Teachers of English to include this multimodal term. With WriteReader, I can easily create a learning task that embodies a multimodal text for my students of all ages and stages to consume, create, and show what they know. So diving into this WriteReader program. So first, as educators, you would log onto the website and you would create your account. Here you could create your own classes where you enter in your student's name, a username, and then you would receive a class code for your students to enter once they log into WriteReader on their own device. And once this is done, you can easily create differentiated book templates to share with your students, where they're asked to practice the language domains, as well as vocabulary and literacy skills. Students can demonstrate their learning and show what they know in any type of learning environment using a school or personal device. I've created some of these book templates that you see here, all about different math, science, or social studies topics, as well as different assessments to support my ESL curriculum. Sometimes you could just ask your students to simply create their own books, not using a book template feature, to incorporate creative storytelling and creative writing. And here they would have the freedom to write their own stories, adding a more personalized and more meaningful touch to their book. So now I just want to touch on a couple of WriteReader multimodal tasks that support educators and students in learning language and literacy through personalization, pictures, and play. Personalization is when we produce something to meet an individual's requirements or needs. So as elementary teachers, we know that the importance and the necessity for scaffolding the learning for our students. With WriteReader, I can easily add a variety of supportive tools to my books so that students of all academic levels can succeed in the learning task. Here, I will kind of touch on and highlight how we create these personalized learning experiences for our students. So within the WriteReader program, there are different kind of page layouts that you can choose from when creating your digital book. I'm going to start with the picture book layout as seen here, because many of my early learners are not yet ready to write or type words on their keyboards. So by asking students to create a wordless picture book, they can begin to practice their speaking and listening skills. So once you've created, as an educator, your book template, students would log in to their class using their class code and username, and it would look like this for them, and they would tap here at this blue circle with the plus sign at the bottom of the screen. Students are then able to see the many book templates that you have created for them to choose from and begin to interact with. Here, they would select the book template to use. Then this is what they would see when they start completing a picture wordless book in the template. After I have introduced a new content vocabulary word and students have listened to me say the word or see a visual or a realia representation, I then upload a picture of the word to a book template to share with the students. Students are instructed to tap the microphone and record themselves saying the vocabulary word on each page. In this example, I created a book template filled with fall vocabulary. Students were simply asked to create an audio recording on each page saying the new word. And for my students who are ready to write words, I can ask them to use this same book template and create word labels for each book page. Students simply touch the speech bubble in the top corner of the vocabulary picture, and they're able to then type the word label to put on the page. Here they can customize the look of the word label and tap and drag or move it around the picture. If the young student is having difficulty writing or typing the word label, they can use the dictation feature. They simply tap the microphone and say or dictate the word into the computer. The word is then typed out for them, and little do they know, this is yet kind of another way for the students to practice their speaking skills within this learning task. After creating their word label, the student would then tap on the microphone and create an audio recording saying or reading the word. For my more advanced readers and writers, I would choose a different kind of book template layout. This page template layout contains a student and educator text box. Here, I use the educator text box at the bottom of the page to add personalized supports such as a word bank, sentence starters, or a writing prompt for students to answer or use. My young learners can use the scaffolds placed in the educator text box when producing their own writing about a photo. This really should eliminate our dreaded, I don't know how to write this word, or I don't know what to write about. Another amazing supportive tool that WriteReader provides is called the speech synthesis bubble, where students are able to push this little speech synthesis button of the man talking, and they can hear these words read aloud to them by the computer. And this has really been a game changer for my early young learners who may be at home and completing a learning task and they don't have help from a parent, guardian, or a sibling to read the words to them. They can simply push that speech synthesis button and listen to the words read aloud as many times as they need to before creating their own writing sample. Here's an example of when my students were learning about mother animals caring for their babies to demonstrate how this works.
Animal love.
So there she was able to hear the words from the word bank to then use in her writing to demonstrate the learning. And then to incorporate a speaking learning task into a book, students were then asked to record themselves reading their writing on each page. I've also easily incorporated our math skills into our language learning. So here's an example where students are asked to create a math book using pictures and sentence starters in the educator text box as a support. In this particular example, I created an interactive learning task where I preloaded the math book template with a word problem. Students push the play button on the template to listen to me dictate a math word problem for them to then write about. So for example, here, students would push the play button on the side of the picture and hear me say, there are 3 yellow marbles and 6 red marbles. How many marbles are there in all? And here, students could write their math problem using the sentence starter as a support. Using students' native language is also a fantastic way to personalize learning. So if a student has a strong mastery of their native language, we know that they will be more successful in learning this new language. Here, students can use the educator's text box at the bottom of the screen to create bilingual books. They would write a sentence in their native language, then try to produce the same sentence in the student's text box in English or the new language that they're learning, creating kind of a bilingual book by the end of the story. And we mustn't forget the importance of our young learners practicing their pencil to paper skills, despite learning online many days. Here we've asked students to create a paper writing sample about a vocabulary unit of study. Then we turned it into a digital book. In this example, we were learning about weather, so students took pictures of their paper and created an audio recording to showcase their learning digitally. And I love how this platform, or WriteReader, really closely resembles a book in a digital format when we're all done.
Weather is when it storms and to blow. I wear raincoat when.
All right, and moving on. So as we know, as educators, one of the most engaging and simple ways for students to learn a new language and literacy skills is through the use of pictures. A picture is really worth 1,000 words, and there's so many language and learning opportunities to be had within a drawing, a personal picture, or a professional photograph. So let's look at how my students have learned English and literacy skills using pictures and this digital book creation platform. So let's begin by how to access images within the WriteReader platform. So here, looking at two different book templates, students would easily tap, or the educator, the picture of what I call the mountain. And here pops up a new box or a new window. So students or educators may choose from a preloaded image using a variety of categories, such as animals, Minecraft, fairy tales, cars, farms. And WriteReader is really always adding new preloaded pictures to these different categories. You may also search for different images using a kid-friendly and safe search. So here students or educators could type in a word to then search a really safe image bank for students. And if students aren't ready to type in the word to search or the topic, they can use that text to speech to text button, the little microphone, to dictate the word that they would like to be searched, which is really helpful for our non-writers. Or you can select the camera to take a photo using your own device to upload and add to your book, or you can upload a picture found on your camera roll. And here are just some examples of how we've used these different options within my class to create books. So beginning with a simple example to practice creative storytelling and speaking skills, students used the preloaded drawings from the WriteReader image bank and created audio recordings describing the pictures.
Stay at school. First, I will kiss on the butt. Next, the owls counting the numbers.
In this example, for more advanced students, I use pictures from the preloaded image bank as a digital writing prompt. So students look at the picture on each page of the book template and read the writing prompt question in the educator's text box below. Remember, if our students are not yet able to read the questions, they can select that speech synthesis button to hear it read aloud to them. They then answer the question in the student's text box to show what they know. And here's an example of how one of my young learners used the image bank tools to demonstrate their learning about the concepts we were learning about big and little. So one student chose to find things around our classroom that represented the words. She then took a picture with the camera on her device and uploaded it to her book page. She added word labels to each item and created an audio recording describing the picture. If students are learning in a virtual setting, I would prompt them to find items around their house or their community to take a photo of with their device. They can then upload these pictures to the book. Another student learning the same concept wasn't quite ready to write the word labels, so she chose to search from the pictures in the preloaded image bank. She found the picture that demonstrated the concept of big and little, and then created an audio recording on each page to show what she knows.
The dog is red and the puppy is little. The girl is little and the horse is bigger. The cat is big and the girl is little.
And in this example with my more advanced learners, I took pictures from a nonfiction read aloud story with the camera on the device. I then uploaded them from the camera roll to the book template. So since these were pictures from our nonfictional text that we had read together in class several times, my students were familiar with the photos and understood what kind of informative writing to produce. And sometimes my students enjoy creating digital drawings and pictures to represent our read aloud stories. So here we had read the classic story of the Three Little Pigs, and students were instructed to create a digital book, retelling and sequencing the events from the story. They decided to use their digital pictures and drawings as the illustration for the book. The creation of this book was also a great way for me to assess the reading comprehension.
Next day, I built a house of books and it was study.
And here students use Keynote to create their drawings. And finally, I love using pictures for students to create personalized books, showcasing their lives outside of school. So by here asking students to take photos with the camera on their device of their family or of items within the home, they're able to showcase their culture as they are engaged and motivated within the learning task. This also is an easy way to incorporate our new language, vocabulary, and the use of different language domains. In this example, my young learner chose to make his book about his pet.
My pet. Her name is Nana. Nana is.
So it goes on to tell about his dog Nana, and as you know, he was very excited to share this book with the rest of the class. And last, let's talk about play. I think it's so important to let our students play. Play develops problem-solving skills, new vocabulary, social skills, and literacy skills. There is more to play than meets the eye. It is simultaneously simple and complex. Play, though its very essence is joyful and reduces anxiety in children, as stated through NAEYC 2020. Children now and today grow up in a really digital environment that allows them to explore their own culture as well as others. The convergence of traditional play with digital play in the area of social learning opens the walls of homes and schools and allows children to experience how they are connected to their immediate environments as well as to larger, more worldly ones. Here we'll briefly talk about how young students can play while learning a new language and literacy skills with the support of this digital tool. I like to take advantage of toys and manipulatives found within the homes of my students. In this example, students play with Legos to support literacy and language learning. I've asked students to use their toys at home to build a scene or a story. They're instructed to take a picture with the camera on their device of their toy creation and upload it to a page in their WriteReader book from their camera roll. Early learners may create an audio recording to their book describing the scene that they built, And more advanced writers are asked to write words to label their picture or write simple sentences describing it. Here, students were asked to create Lego scenes to retell our read aloud story titled Snowman All Year. This was a fun way to assess their comprehension of the story as well as practice language skills. An idea of how to incorporate something similar something similar to this within their own digital retelling of a story you might be reading within your class or what they are reading at home with their parents or guardians. Field trips or excursions around the community are a fun and hands-on way for our young learners to learn a new language. So let's encourage our students to take photos of their experience to document the learning using their digital devices. So using pictures, students or other educators took pictures during our field trip to the pumpkin patch to create a book filled with pictures, words, audios, and recordings to retell our adventure and demonstrate what we learned. This was also a great way to keep parents informed about the learning taking place both in and outside of our classroom.
That's what about pumpkin. I have pumpkin seeds. The seed sprouts. The sprouts.
Educators can also create an interactive listening template for young learners to get up and move while searching for new language or vocabulary words. In this example, students listen to my audio recording or directions of what school tools or items to find around the room. They then take a picture of the item, upload it to their book page, and label it with our school tools vocabulary word. So this was done at the beginning of the year when my students had arrived back to school or were in the classroom for the first time. This could be done to create a listening scavenger hunt for students to use around their home, to hunt for certain things such as a bed, a chair, a TV, to practice those kinds of vocabulary words, or even around your community, such as in a supermarket. Creating an interactive game-like experience is such a fun way and engaging way for our students to both play and learn.
I see tissues.
So after selecting the camera, she would go around the room and find the tissues. Here's her picture. She would take a picture, upload it to the page in the book, and then label it with the word tissues. And last but not least, one of my favorite features of WriteReader that enables so much fun and playful learning experiences for our young learners is this link sharing tab. By toggling this tab on, the possibilities are endless for community and global sharing experiences for both educators and students. This shareable link allows for young authors and book creators to connect with the others worldwide and share and showcase their work. This allows for students to share their books with family living outside of their community as well. One of my favorite projects with WriteReader has been our school book global collaboration. Here we made a book showcasing our school and shared the book link with other classes around the world. They created and shared their school books with us, and we compared how our schools were alike and different, while also learning about each other's cultures. Here is an example from our new friends in Sweden. I used split screen for students to see the two school books, and we created writing samples and pictures to demonstrate our findings. We were also excited to recently receive another school book from new friends in Greece. The download and print button is also allows for our young learners or students to see themselves as actual book creators and publishers. This takes their creations to a lifelike experience as their digital books become hard copies. Educators can print students' digital books to create paper copies, and you can give these paper copies of the books to students. I've done it before as a holiday gift or surprise, and it's amazing how excited they are to receive their actual book that they've created online in their hands. You could also use these actual book or paper copies and display them in your school library, a book fair, or even your public library for friends, family, and community members to read. So here we created fairy tales within the platform and printed them out for students. And this just was a really fun way to showcase our learning. So within our fairy tales and practicing our creative writing, students were asked to dress in their most beautiful fairy tale costumes. And we had a community showcase where we were proud to read our books aloud to family and friends. For many of my students who have very limited reading resources at home, these books are a very special gift that they will treasure for a lifetime. So hopefully you have some new and kind of fresh ideas of how to use this web-based platform to support the language and literacy skills and learning for your students. If you're new to the WriteReader platform, I would highly recommend taking a peek at the Resource Center. So here at the Resource Center, you can find tons of getting started videos, tutorials, blog posts filled with learning task ideas, and ready-made lesson plans, as well as templates, which you can go ahead and use or just to spark ideas to create your own. And as we know, these are great for busy teachers where time is of an essence. So in conclusion, my name is Katie Gardner. Thank you so much for having me. Please feel free to follow me on Twitter, where I share a lot of examples and things my students and I are doing within the classroom. We love to collaborate with others and share ideas and lessons, or shoot me an email if you would like. So we do have some time. If there are any kinds of questions or comments, please feel free to ask.
Oh, hi, Katie. My name is Deborah.
Hi, Deborah.
Hi, good morning and good afternoon to you.
Thank you.
I was just wondering about how many books would you do, say, in a year or in a semester?
Oh, well, that's a great question. So really with the program, you're allowed to do as many books as you would like. So with my students, once again, I teach kindergarten and first grade students. And once you kind of walk them through the steps on how to create those first few books, it's amazing how quickly they can produce their own. So this year within our ESL learning curriculum, we have pretty much a book a week for our vocabulary units, and we create a WriteReader book to support each of those. So we could do a book a week. You could really do as many as you would like, but it's amazing how easy and simple it is for early learners to kind of catch on and be able to create their own stories.
Great, thank you.
And so I know there are a bunch of kind of digital book creation platforms out there for educators to use. And the reason why I chose to kind of showcase or talk about WriteReader is because I do love the simplicity it has for our students. Students are not able to choose from 5,000 different kinds of fonts, where they might be trying to choose for minutes on end of what font to use or colors to use. It's very simple. It's very easy to use, which I really appreciate about the program.
There's a question in the chat. Can you see it?
Let's see. Once they have learned. Oh, great question. So it says once students have learned to make a basic book, what criteria do you use to have them move up to the next level? So I think this is one thing I really enjoy about WriteReader is if I can take the same book template for my students to use, and they can all use it no matter their age and stage. So like I showed, we could have students that are using a book template about animals. If they're non-writers, they might just be creating an audio recording on that page about an animal. Students that are maybe ready to do word labels could create a word label on each picture, labeling the animal. My high flyers, I might require them, instead of creating a word label, to create a simple sentence about the animal to put on that page, or create 2 sentences to put on that page. So I'm kind of able to take that same learning task and differentiate it for my different levels of learners. Students who are maybe super high flyers or older students, they could do creative story writing where they don't need a template and they could just go and create their own stories. And you do have those different page layouts and formats. So you could do the layout with the student and educator text box, or there is a layout with only the student text box. So there's no educator text box needed, and they can just start writing their own stories or answering those writing prompts. And I always, to kind of incorporate that speaking piece and reading piece into the learning task, I always ask my students once they're done writing to create that audio recording sample of reading their writing on each page. So they're writing or typing their answers, and then they're asked to read their writing and create that audio recording. So within creating this one book, they're practicing all of these language domains at once. And as the educator, I can go back and I can review their book, read their writing, listen to their audio recording, and really assess the learning. And then we can create, using the shared writing or the shared link, I can share their book to parents, to other teachers, in so many different ways, which is great.
I guess if there's no more questions, mahalo to Katie Gardner for everyone's participation. We hope you'll find this session helpful and make some valuable connections. Please help us complete the survey on the iTeach808 website. So I pasted it into the chat. The survey will be sent to the email address that you registered with. Please make sure to check your spam folder for any emails from iTeach808 Hawaii@gmail.com. You'll be entered to win one of 20 $5 Starbucks gift cards if you complete the survey by February 4th. Thank you for being here today. Feel free to join us for the other sessions coming up. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much.